Hey everyone, welcome once again to the night sky this week for March 22nd, 2021. So we're going to pop up the planetarium program. And here we are. We've got the sky set up for what it is this week in early evening. So once the sun sets about a half hour to an hour after your local sunset, this is the lay of the celestial land, so to say, looking towards the southwest. You'll notice that a very familiar constellation that we've been talking so much about week to week over the last few months, that have been really a dominant force in the sky, has been the constellation Orion. I'm going to zoom in here and you can see there's Orion, and you can see still the twilight setting in. If I move it an hour later, twilight is gone. And where Orion was a dominant force in the east and southern skies throughout December, January, and February, now that we're in March, you'll notice that it's pinning down the southwest skies and sinking following the sun. By late evening, it will be out of your local sky, most likely, depending, of course, on what latitude you are around the world. But still a great location to be able to look at in the sky is Orion constellation. It's filled with deep sky wonders. We've covered Orion Nebula, that's in the Sword of Orion. We've got the Horsehead Nebula over here. We've got the Veil Nebula. We've got all kinds of really interesting deep sky objects that are beyond the solar system, that are amazing, even star clusters in this region. And one of the things that I wanted to really just pop in there is the winter, what's called the winter triangle. And the winter triangle, we've heard of the summer triangle, right? We've talked about it during the summer months, high up in the near the zenith, the overhead sky during the summer months in the northern hemisphere. One of the dominant patterns that the human eye can see are three stars that create what's called the summer triangle, obviously a triangular formation. But we have them in other seasons as well. And during winter time, the one that really pops up in winter time is the Procyon, Sirius, and Betelgeuse. So you see Procyon here, Sirius, the brightest of the three stars, and then we have Betelgeuse. So these three form what we call the winter triangle. The winter triangle. And I'd like you to go out and try to see that. So that's using one of the shoulder stars, Betelgeuses, of Orion as one of the corners of this celestial triangle. And then, of course, we have in Canis Major, the small dog, Procyon, marking the other corner. And then the brightest of the three stars, and the brightest star in the entire sky, in fact, is Sirius, marking Canis Major, the brightest star, the lead star in the constellation that is the big dog. So the big dog, little dog, and the mythical hunter Orion are all part of a corner of the winter triangle. But did you know that there is actually another triangle that's visible in the sky? And now we're heading into a new season. And in the northern hemisphere, of course, we're just started the spring season. In the southern hemisphere, we're starting the fall season. And we have something called the spring triangle. And that's made up of the stars Spica, Arcturus, and Denebola. And let's look at those. So we can see Spica, and I should say Denebola, is over here. If we just open this up here a little bit, like that, and you'll see Regulus is the heart of Leo the lion. We've talked about the Leo many times because the moon pathway actually goes through Leo constellation. So to see Leo is a very easy sight right across the world, and pinning it down, the most obvious star is Regulus. And so that's one of the corners of the spring triangle. The other one that we have is, we can see it here. Let's see if we zoom out, is Arcturus. Arcturus over here. Arcturus marks the brightest star. It's an orange-colored star, about 36 light years away, and it's the lead star in the constellation Boötes. Now, I'm going to go a little bit farther in the evening so it's easier for us to see. All of this is rising in the eastern part of the sky. Again, this week, try this out. It's really easy to do. So we're looking at the spring triangle. We've got Denebola, which is the tail star of the constellation Leo. Remember, the Regulus is the brightest, but Denebola is the tail star. It's on the other side of Leo. So the Regulus is the heart of the lion, and then Denebola is the tail of the lion. Leo, the lion. And then so this is a very much tighter little, what we call an asterism, this pattern of stars that is very distinct to the human eye. So Denebola, Spica, and Arcturus mark what we call the spring triangle. So we've got a summer triangle, we've got a winter triangle, we've got a spring triangle. These are just easy to follow and locate patterns of stars. And they get you to a point where you can start understanding the night sky, be able to navigate the night sky. So Arcturus, Spica, which is the lead star in Virgo, the maiden. Denebola, the tail star in the constellation Leo, the lion. And Arcturus, which is the lead star in Boötes, right here, the herdsman. Very easy to see. Constellation, Boötes, and you have the Arcturus star right there. So 3 stars that mark this beautiful springtime triangle. Try to find that along with the winter triangle this week. So that's a lot of fun to attempt to do. Now, tonight on Monday, though, also what's really neat is to look at, if we've got this set up for Monday evening, is look where the moon will be. The moon is going to be very close to Pollux and Castor, the Gemini twins. So again, this is Monday, March 22nd. You've got the moon next door to Pollux and Castor. A really nice, tight-fitted triangular formation in itself. And once the moon goes out of the way, out of this part of the sky, there is something that's worth looking at using the moon. And if you have binoculars or telescopes, and that's a little nebula. Once the moon goes away, this will become much more evident. Nebula is a gas cloud, and in this case, it's called the Eskimo Nebula. And I'll show you what that looks like. It's really neat. And it's something that the Hubble Space Telescope has taken a picture. It's really a beautiful object when the Hubble Space Telescope takes a picture. For backyard stargazers, this would be something with a telescope. To be even with a telescope under high magnification, it's a small little object, not very evident, more than a small little smudge in the telescope. It's 4,200 light years away, and its magnitude is 9.2, so you need a small telescope to see this, folks. The moon will be next to it, which will drown out the light from it very much so, but it'll be right now. You might just be able to see it with a telescope faintly. But if you know where to look, and the moon is kind of pointing to that, then once the moon goes out of the way later this week, you can go back to seeing the Eskimo Nebula at its best. So that's something, that's really an observing challenge for those of you with a telescope, definitely. Also, what's neat is if we move towards the western sky a little bit earlier, let me just put this back a little bit earlier, you'll notice that Mars is paired up with another orange star in Taurus, the bull, the orange eye of the bull. We've talked many times about Taurus, the bull, and Mars and Aldebaran are paired up. They're about 7 degrees apart. So it's a little more than your fist at arm's length, right? If you hold it at arm's length, your fist, and the width of your fist is about 5 degrees, and so it's a little bit more than that. That would span this area. So your fist should easily fit in between these 2 stars, but that gives you a general guidepost of the separation of these 2 star-like objects. And of course, in this case, one of these is not a star, it's actually a planet. Planet Mars, our neighboring world, where we have, of course, NASA's Perseverance rover mission right now, causing a lot of sensation. And we have Aldebaran, which is a true star that is located as the eye of the bull. It's 66 light years away. And it marks one of the edges of this V-shaped pattern of stars you can see here marked out. This is called the Hyades cluster. The Hyades cluster is a beautiful star that marks the face of the Taurus the bull. And Aldebaran, which marks one of the sides of the edges of this V-shaped pattern, is very close to Mars. So 7 degrees apart between these two star-like objects. Look at the color differentiation between Aldebaran and Mars. That will be very interesting. Can you see the difference in the colors? And this should be very evident even if you're stuck within city limits, you have light pollution. Mars and Aldebaran will both be visible to the naked eye. If you have binoculars, you'll get maybe a better view of the coloration as well. So something to look forward there. Now, if we turn our attention to the early morning sky. So there's stuff happening in the early morning as well. If we look at sunrise, and we look maybe a few minutes before sunrise, towards the east, let me move this over. Oh, of course, I've chosen a horizon that has a big tree in it, right? So let me choose a different horizon that does not have that. Gives us a clear, there we go. Of course, wouldn't it be nice if we could just remove trees like that with just a click of a mouse? But this is the view. If you have a clear view towards the southeastern horizon, what will greet you is our 3 planets: Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn. A beautiful alignment of 3 naked eye planets. Again, this is something you got to rise up early, about a half hour, 45 minutes before your local sunrise, looking towards the southeast. Find a spot that has a very clear view towards the southeastern horizon in the morning, and this will greet you, this sight. Now, what's particularly interesting is if we zoom in, center the planet Jupiter, and we zoom in on Jupiter. Here we do that. We're going to zoom in, get a little bit earlier, so the skies get darker, like that, like so. They're darkening. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go on Thursday this week. Let me move this over to Thursday morning. And if you look at very close at 6 o'clock in the morning, local Eastern time. So you got to do the calculation. So Eastern time and North American Eastern time at 6 o'clock. This is the view. Look at this. Now I have it, the moon is magnified here. I'm going to make it smaller so that the planet, there we go. You can see the moon is going to look more like this. One of the moons, Jupiter has 4 main moons called the Galilean moons, but one of them is going to be right there off the side. And if you continue watching Jupiter with that moon Ganymede, and I'm going to do this over a few minutes, watch what happens. I'm clicking and clicking. Each click is a minute. And look at this. At around 6:25, 6:30 in the morning Eastern time, look what happens. Look where Ganymede is. Ganymede, the moon Ganymede, is right in front of Jupiter. You'll actually see Ganymede transit its host planet, Jupiter. Isn't that amazing? You could see this with a very small backyard telescope. Nothing fancy for this. Just put it in high magnification, as magnified as you can, and look at Jupiter with that moon, Ganymede, moving in front of the disk of Jupiter. Look at that. Whoops. Let me move that back. There we go. Center it. And look, as the minutes pass, you'll see the moon move, Ganymede move in front of it. So this is a very, very cool sight, being able to see. So again, that's around 6:30, 6:25, 6:30 Eastern time when you'll see the disk of Ganymede, one of the 4 Galilean moons of Jupiter, go in front of the disk of Jupiter. Now, I think this is going to be one of those amazing things that if you're a newbie or you've been watching the planets for a long time, this never gets old. This is a very exciting thing to be able to see. Actually get an idea of the celestial mechanics at play, how these planets orbit the sun, and of course each planet has its own retinue of these gas giants do, particularly of many moons. And Jupiter, you get to see one of the moons go in front of the planet. I will have a sky chart for all of this. Thank you so much for joining me for a few moments out of your day. I hope you have a great week. Please tune in. Please make sure you share and subscribe, and I'll see you all, of course, next week. Bye-bye. Clear skies.